Okay, now we're going to talk about something a little bit more controversial, dog meat. So it was consumed by Koreans in the past, oftentimes due to a shortage of food and whatnot. Other times a part of like the normal culture over here. Young Koreans, almost none of them like it. A few of them tried it in their childhood. It's deeply unpopular. As it currently stands, I think dog meat is getting it's like been banned, but the grace period ends this year. Regardless, I have a lot of thoughts about this, starting with um, I don't like how Korea almost follows the West or admires them so much. And it's not just Korea. I'm not picking on them, but this is where I live, right? A lot of other Asians do this, and maybe it happens in Africa or South America. I've just never lived there, but they look to the West as like almost better than them. And in a lot of aspects, the West is better. Our institutions are really strong. We have a strong democracy, good technology, strong militaries, yada yada yada. But I just don't like the almost blind reverence that a lot of people have for Westerners. A Westerner walks into the room and everyone's just like, "Whoa!" Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's your opinion? Like, what's your Instagram? And I say that as a beneficiary. People treat me a lot better once they realize I'm American. There's a huge difference, and this is played out 1,000 times. As soon as people hear my accent, I get treated 1,000 times better, which is odd because I'm not better or worse than anyone just because I'm American. Everyone's a human being at the end of the day, and that sounds kind of like hippie, hand-holdy cosmopolitanism, but it's true. And one aspect that this manifests into is like Korean attitudes toward dog meat, and this is where it gets a little controversial. There are certainly people who don't like dog meat for the same reasons that vegetarians and vegans don't like dog meat, for morality reasons. They don't like getting dogs. They don't like seeing dogs getting mistreated. There's a lot of festivals, like in China, for example, where dogs are mistreated, and I don't know if this is a myth, but sometimes the dogs are tortured because they believe the adrenaline will make the meat taste better. That's barbaric, and I'm against it. In the same vein that I think chickens, cows, and pigs, they shouldn't be abused before they're eaten. But I don't have a problem with eating chicken or pork or whatever. That's how I feel about dog meat. Um, I don't understand why dog meat is unique from other animals. If you want to say dogs are intelligent, pigs are more intelligent. If you want to say dogs are pets, yeah, but like lots of people keep cows, pigs, goats, chickens as pets, especially out in the farms. I think a lot of us are removed from that because you don't really see what's on your plate anymore. You just get like meat from the supermarket. But yeah, in farming communities, it was very normal to have pets. And then you could say about the mistreatment. That is the only argument I accept, but then you'd also have to be against all other forms of meat, which 99% of people aren't. The people who are like the most like, oh, dog meat is barbaric, like they'll happily eat a chicken sandwich. Chickens get mistreated too. So I'm not talking about it from that perspective. I think a lot of Koreans are against eating dog meat because they're ashamed. They're ashamed of seen as barbaric from Westerners and outsiders. They realize that when Koreans go abroad, one of the things that they'll get, racially abused or stereotyped as are dog eaters. They're like, haha, you eat dogs. And a lot of Koreans are very sensitive to how other people perceive them. Shame is a great part of the culture. And in this case, it manifests in them being repulsed by dogs. Why do I have a problem with this? Because if you are against eating dog, then you should be against it for, I don't want to say like the right reasons, but like for consistent reasons. What's your reason? Mistreatment? Okay, you're against eating dogs. Then you should be against eating dogs for cats and not cats, for pigs, for cows, but they're not. But if you're gonna eat dog, then eat dog. What's wrong with eating dogs as opposed to eating these other animals? Who is the West, so to speak, to decide what is okay for consumption and what isn't? Like in Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, I visited. They eat horses. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And in different parts of the world, they eat different parts of. So if you're not going to eat dog, do it for the right reasons and not because of what I sense, which is shame. Now, I might be totally wrong on this, but this is what I think.